Thank you, Dr. Folasade Coker, Director, Informal Sector, Lagos Internal Revenue Service, for having us.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. We acknowledge that the L.I.R.S is a pace setter when it comes to subnational revenues, providing service and tax in the country. I just want to know first, what is the impact of initiatives that you brought, like the e-tax platform? How has it really helped your work?
The e-tax, better known as the enterprise tax, has done a lot in the sense that it's created an opportunity where you can be anywhere, both within the country and in diaspora, and you are able to access tax information. You are able to file your returns through that portal. You are able to pay your taxes and also get your TCC, and that's the tax clearance certificate once you've done that. You also have a lot of frequently asked questions on our portal. So without visiting any of our physical tax stations, you will get to have a lot of information that would help and guide you to be able to pay your taxes as at when due. So that's what the e-tax has done so far.
This is really quite remarkable. I yield the floor to my senior colleague, Mr. Teslim Chitabe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dr. Coker, Lagos State has also, as rightly pointed out, is a pace setter in taxation, and we are pleased with that. However, the World Bank has said that they expect that nations that are sustainable should be able to have tax to GDP ratios of about 18%. Nigeria generally is way below that. We're about 10.88%, slightly under 11%. But Lagos State has shown incredible effectiveness in its tax capacity. There has been a recent suggestion that the informal sector needs to pull its own weight in tax payments. What is Lagos State really doing now to ensure that?
It's true that the tax to GDP for Nigeria is quite low. And I'll quickly say that one of the reasons for that is because the informal sector is not captured in that conversation. So the informal sector does not impact the tax to GDP of Nigeria. So it's important and critical that every state in the country understands the impact that the informal sector can make. As I tell people, the informal sector is the new oil for Nigeria, and is also the new growth area that every state should pay attention to. So Lagos State has understood and identified this new growth area, and we are daily mining it to ensure that we harness it and we make it impact the GDP. And over time, Lagos State will now be able to say exactly in accurate terms what the tax to GDP is, because the informal sector would contribute to that statistics.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. But just a quick chaser to that question. Before the formal interview started, you made mention of something that was very important, and that was accurate data. Maybe you could give us some clarification on what you mean by accurate data.
A lot of people just have conversations and keep saying data. But the reality is that for purpose of revenue generation, internally generated revenue of the state of Nigeria, it's critical that we understand that we need to quickly move away from data to accurate data. And that is data cleansing, not an issue of garbage in, garbage out, which you have where you have data. It has to be where the data is mined, people that are deceased are expunged, people that migrate from one state to the other are either archived or put in a silo, and depending on where they migrate, so that this would impact infrastructure. You'll be able to know the number of citizens or residents within your state. It would impact security. You'll be able to speak accurately as to the number of individuals, both adults, grown, and all that. And it would also help us resolve this issue of census. Well, for the accurate data, we might have to look as a country at what is called the cradle to grave, where maybe you use the birth certificate. Yes, I've had, use NIN, use BVN. But I think the first number that a child gets is the birth certificate. And it's also used in other climes. So that can be used for purpose of getting accurate data and knowing where everyone is at every time. And that becomes a unique identifier that can be used depending on whatever an individual wants to do within the time frame of their being alive or their lifetime. Yes.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Said, I don't know whether you have a question.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Dr. Coker, for your responses so far. So I want to gradually take you back to question around the e-tax system again. So can you tell us how much has it helped an agency like L.I.R.S to penetrate the informal sectors?
Okay, an offshoot of the e-tax is what is called the I.B.I.L.E of application. So what you have operating currently in Lagos State in the informal sector is the I.B.I.L.E of application. And it's because Lagos State and L.I.R.S has understood the mindset of a lot of people in the informal sector, and that they really do not want to leave their business or their trade and look for tax stations all around the state. So we've decided that for purpose of ease of doing business, we will bring tax payments and the options to be able to pay their taxes quickly and easily into that space, so that Mama Sikira does not have to leave her Pepe to go and look for tax station, because she'll be wondering that maybe before she comes back, Mama Saeed would have taken her business. So we have the I.B.I.L.E application. And what is the I.B.I.L.E? It's an acronym. It's an acronym using the divisions of the states, the Ikeja, Badagry, Ikorodu, and Lagos Island, and Epe. And we've created staffing around that and regionalized the informal sector. So we have people that go into that space on a daily basis, enumerating, having stakeholders engagement, enlightening the taxpayers, and doing biometrics up to the stage where they ensure that they pay their taxes and they are duly receipted by giving them the government receipt on time, immediately after payment. They do not have to wait a day for that. And then there's what we call the tax card. So we also ensure that where they do not have the tax card, we furnish them with that. And we create like what is called a cradle to grave. So from the point of enumeration or enlightenment all the way to payment and receipt of that payment, so that they know that somehow they become a stakeholder. And this is now integrated into the e-tax. So where you have those that are not on the presumptive tax as created by the state, and they are on direct assessment, they have the option of being enumerated and paying on the I.B.I.L.E, or they pay on the e-tax portal.
Okay, recently, let's say last year, you signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, looking at how to work more, cooperation, and to address the challenges which has been part of the issues of ease of taxation, a major concern in Nigeria, the subnational level, issues of double taxation that affects individuals and MSMEs. Can you just give us an update of how that MOU has really helped?
For tax purposes, collaboration is key. And yes, it's subnational and national, but information sharing is critical to growing the revenue. And I believe that that is what the FRS or the JTB, which is the Joint Tax Board, came to identify. And you know, the JTB, the Joint Tax Board, is made up of all the chairmen of all the IRS in the country. So through that, a memorandum of understanding was signed, and we are now in the era of information sharing. Information sharing because there are audits that are done by the Federal Inland Revenue that also have an impact on the state. So instead of going into a company as FRS and L.I.R.S separately, we look at it that for ease of doing business, having one team go into a company or an organization to audit their books and to give them the results of the audit, which might be a liability or a clearance that, oh, you are exempted from tax or you have paid all outstanding, is important. One, it lets the tax payer or the organizations to know that the IRS is really concerned about their business and doesn't want to clog the wheel of their advancement. And this is what has informed that MOU. So it's a lot of information sharing to be able to have a global and holistic view of the taxpayer, and also to be able to address issues of assessments and tax obligations as a one-stop shop. So that's what the MOU has been about.
Very interesting. Yeah, maybe as a chaser to what Otto asked, we live in a world of technology. Artificial intelligence is increasingly becoming a factor in how economies intend to grow forward. Like I said, Lagos State has pleasantly surprised several people in terms of the quality of its tax administration. Are we going to see a Lagos State that is AI compliant? Do we see a Lagos State that will increasingly use technology to advance the accuracy of data, like you talked about, the accuracy of data and the administration of data?
Yes, Lagos State and the L.I.R.S. A lot of IRS look at us and say, "Oh, we are up there," but it's important that you continue to reinvent yourself. You continue to look inwards and look at not celebrating what you achieved the last time, but looking at it to be able to identify what you can do better. And that is what L.I.R.S does, continuously reevaluating and trying to reinvent the wheel to make it better, to make the customer or taxpayers experience more palatable to the taste, or having them have commentaries that show that, okay, there is a human face to the IRS, and professionalism is key and all that. So taking that back to artificial intelligence, data and all that, we look at that and we come to understand that from the time of COVID, a lot of things have gone virtual. A lot of organizations have adopted the artificial intelligence virtual perspective of working and all that to bring ease into the whole space. So we are not left out in that conversation. So we continue to look at it to see how we can update the e-tax, whether there are other things that we can incorporate there to make it a one-stop shop for taxpayers, to ensure that whether you're in diaspora or wherever, you don't have to come all the way down to Nigeria to file your taxes. You don't have to physically visit anywhere to be able to ask some questions or know some things. So kneeling or trying to reduce human intervention. And with that, you also know that once you are able to bring a lot of AI and IT into the space, and you cut out the human intervention, it has an impact on growing revenue, because a lot of silos are nilled, and a lot of under the table conversations would also be frustrated or thwarted, because you can do everything on the web or whatever. So that's a conversation that we are having on a day-to-day as a management, and we'll continuously have to remain the best within the Nigerian IRS space.
Let's quickly to follow up on what you just said, because you noted one thing that was important, and that is Nigerians in the diaspora. I was surprised to hear from an industry participant that several Nigerian artists who seem to be making the world, they set the world on fire with beautiful Afro beats, amapiano from wherever. Yes, they've done a great job in popularizing these genres of African music. But my problem is, most of those incomes are generated abroad. So we are exporting talent, but we're not seeing the other side of being able to attract the income that comes from that talent creation, talent export. I was told that some of our artists have set up companies in Delaware, United States of America, to be able to hold value there. And I'm saying, in my head, I'm saying, so what does Nigeria get? What does L.I.R.S, for instance, get? How do we encourage, these artists to pay some of those incomes there back home, so that everybody can benefit from what they're doing, the creativity, rather than just warehousing those creative values abroad?
Okay, to answer that, I spoke about innovation and continuous innovation here. So looking at that also, the L.I.R.S has created what is called the intelligence unit.
Okay.
The intelligence unit is charged with continuously gathering intelligence from people, profiling people, because we found out that Nigerians like to boast. When you buy a car, you want to let everyone know about it. When you are on holidays, in Seychelles or wherever you like to. So ovation at weddings and all that. You buy a car, you want it to have a fancy plate number and all that. So we've always sent congratulatory messages because for us, a taxpayer's success is our success. We want you to remain in business. We want you to continue to thrive in Lagos so that you can also ensure that you pay the taxes due there. So we profile them, we have the intelligence gathering, and we celebrate your little wins. And then we demand what is due to the government also. So we've been doing this. We've had a lot of artists that have come here and had to address their tax issues and concerns. Are we there yet? No. But it's work in progress for us, and we have our eyes on that goal, and we'll continue to keep close eyes on that, and also looking at the fact that a lot of people are transiting from physical to using social media space. So the social media space is novel for us, but we are already looking into that and seeing how we can harness all the information and track it or trace it back to that specific individual and assess them to and ensure that they file their taxes and pay what is due to the state. So that's a going concern for us, yes.
Okay, fantastic. Sadi?
Okay, yes. My next question will be in relation to complaint management and improving service to individuals in Lagos. So what are the steps L.I.R.S is taking to help in complaint resolutions?
Okay, for me, I'll say that the L.I.R.S is the central bank of Lagos because government is all about revenue, having revenue to drive governance and to impact the residents and stakeholders there to be able to feel the pulse of government. So in doing that, yes, we know that it's important and critical that staff of the IRS have there's a board eye view on each person to ensure that you are doing what you should do and that you are treating the customers as king. So in this regard, the government last year set up what is called the whistleblowing team. The whistleblowing is outside the LIRS because if it's within, then you would not be able to criticize yourself. So it's something that is outside the LIRS and is open and in the public space. So where you have complaints, you are able to whistleblow in specific, either anonymously or by writing your name so that there can be proper follow-up. We also have the customer care. The customer care are lines that you can call and raise your concerns or lay your complaints, and they'll definitely get to management, and management can investigate and drill down and give you the necessary and requisite feedback. There's also the Instagram handle, the Twitter handle. So, and of course, outcomes of that is that where disciplinary committees need to be set up to deal with those issues, where there needs to be clarifications, maybe the customer or taxpayer did not really understand that it wasn't a demand outside government. The explanations will be made and the follow-ups to ensure that the taxpayer has a good experience. Are we there yet as to international standards? I'll say no, but we are working towards international good practice and we are daily learning from previous issues that have been addressed and trying to create a good experience for taxpayers in Lagos and have them have all the requisite knowledge that they need to be able to do what is called the DIY and navigate the tax terrain in the state. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, lastly for me, I acknowledge what you said that you love and want the prosperity of Lagosians, so through that they pay taxes. I acknowledge that during COVID, there were some relief measures from LIRS in terms of filing of returns and all that, which was a big relief to companies. And yet again, we're in another interesting time and period in Nigeria. Are there prospects for some relief measures, both for individuals and MSMEs and business owners? Because the times are quite challenging.
I think the first thing to put out there would be that every internal revenue authority is guided by the Personal Income Tax Act. So all that we do as tax administrators must derive from that law, the Personal Income Tax Act. The palliatives or benefits are stated there. And there's no IRS that can actually come up with a palliative of its own making. But the state governor of each state has that authority. And you'll see that in the past few weeks, we've had palliative measures being rolled out by Mr. Governor and all that. So this is available to everybody, irrespective of whether you're even a taxpayer or not, as long as you're a resident within the state. But on the part of the L.I.R.S, what have we been able to do to try to simplify the process? And you might call that a form of palliative. One is that sometimes we have to extend online filing, the filing of returns, because we know that, okay, maybe internet or knowledge and all that might be wanting. So you find us that even though the law says, oh, between the 1st and 31st of January to file your returns, sometimes we might extend it till June. Like in the time of COVID, we had to extend it till like June or July. And of course, we are supposed to prosecute people that do not file their tax returns. But bringing the human face into it, the IRS, the L.I.R.S in particular, decided not to prosecute anyone. So for me, I think that can count as a palliative on its own too. The other thing I would look at is that another palliative is free education. As I tell people, taxpayers' money makes free education possible. So the taxes that a lot of us pay gives funds to the government to be able to provide free education to the less privileged, so that there will be no child that will be left out of school. So that's another very critical palliative, because when we have everybody knowledgeable, students not out of school, trading on the road and all that, then that's benefit. That's a bright future ahead for that child. And I think those are the examples I want to give for the type of palliatives that Lagos State has taken on board and shown to the citizens and residents.
Dr. Coker, we want to thank you for your time. We want to encourage you to keep on firing ahead, making us proud in Lagos State, and making Nigeria proud, actually, because the work you've done so far has been quite commendable. But Governor Fashola said something to me some time ago. He said, thank you very much, but you know that the reward for hard work is more work. So he says he's going to continue to work harder. So we expect you to continue to work harder. We would like to see a greater amount of technology, intelligence involved in your work. And then that data cleaning you mentioned, we want to see those data bright and shiny. So we'd just like to thank you again. Thank you and your team for the wonderful work you're doing in Lagos State. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.